Wow, man, it's Tuesday. I mean, time is flying, man. January is almost gone. Um, I'm I'm not gonna ask about the New Year's resolution at this point, right? But welcome to the East West Football Network's draft show. Of course, we've got Walter Stringer and Ned Lennon with us. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Good, Jerry.
Great.
That's great to hear. So I know that we've been doing the NFL mock drafts for a while, but I think that for right now we're gonna do a little transition. We're gonna actually break down positional groups, and we want to give you the top five for each positional group. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the top five quarterbacks. Walter, can you
Yeah,
please give me your top five quarterbacks in the 2021 NFL draft?
no problem, Jerry. So, of course, as close to everyone else, I have Trevor Lawrence, number one overall from Clemson. Tall kid, wonderful arm, cerebral, mobile enough. He doesn't have to get out there and consistently take hits the way a lot of other quarterbacks will. He's done everything he's supposed to do at Clemson. He's won. He's loved in that community. He's loved in that locker room. I think he's head and shoulders above everyone else right now, and I have him as the top quarterback off the board. Also, number two, I have Justin Fields. I know a lot of people have kind of soured on Fields in lure of their lust towards Zach Wilson, but we know when I look at Fields, I see elite arm strength. I see solid touch on his deep routes. I see a winner. He's very mobile. He has very good anticipation on his throws, and he's a competitor. Now, of course, Justin has some issues that he has to clean up, which would be the fact one is, well, I have fear about his health right now. And I think Justin takes way too many hits, unnecessary hits. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he is a competitor and he is constantly competing and always trying to win. But aside from that, I really don't have too many issues with Justin Fields the way a lot of other people do, other than the fact that maybe if you look at his progressions, he has a tendency to lock in on one receiver a lot. I don't know if that's something that he just goes through or a lot of other quarterbacks that been to Ohio State tend to go through. But aside from that, I really don't have too many issues with him. I do think he's a man coverage killer. Outside of man coverage, he tends to struggle with a lot of different zones, and that can be a death sentence for a quarterback at the next level. So, moving on, third, I got Zach Wilson from BYU. I'm not as high on Zach Wilson as a lot of other people are right now, but when you look at him, he has a quick release, consistent base, solid arm strength. I think the arm strength is a little overblown. I don't think his arm strength is as close to Lawrence or Fields, honestly. But the talent is there. The talent is definitely there. I think he must learn how to fool safeties a whole lot better. Not necessarily fool, but control those safeties a whole lot better. And he needs to also become better when he's rushed. He doesn't really see the field when he gets rushed a lot. Also, we got to talk about the competition. When you got Navy, Texas, San Antonio, Texas State, Western Kentucky, and North Alabama on your hit list, I got a question. So moving on, Mac. Big Mac Jones. I'm not sure if he's Joe Burrow or if he's Ken Dorsey, but
Oh,
he's got. Hey, listen, I've been hard on Mac for some solid reasons, but he's got very clean mechanics. He transfers his weight well on his deep throws, and he's a pretty good improviser. Thing is, he doesn't really stay on schedule when things or handle the rush very well up the middle. When things come on around, at least along the outside, he's pretty solid. But when that pocket gets pushed right into his stomach, Mac tends to have some problems. Also, I just wonder about the arm power. You know, can he make those legitimate throws downfield to guys who aren't schemed open, to guys who aren't running clearly open? And how much of Alabama's success was him, and how much of it was everyone else around him? So, moving on, I got Kyle Trask from Florida. Um, People are really sour on Trask right now. I understand why. There's not really a lot to wow you with Trask. There's a lot of touch throws. A lot of people don't like his physique. He's 6'5", 234. You would expect for a guy to have a bigger arm at that size than he has, but who's to say that a guy can't get better? Guy can't get stronger once a guy gets into an NFL weight room. He starts lifting, start doing a lot more deadlifts. That arm power should improve. I think he has a very smooth delivery. He's a solid decision maker. The injuries. I'm kind of questioning the fact that, he was hurt those first couple years. He struggled to beat out Felipe Franks, and he also had one FBS offer, which is kind of strange coming out of Texas. But he has good size. He's patient in the pocket. He took on everybody in the SEC, what I think is huge. And also, he fought his way back after those rough first couple 3 years. So, aside from that, also the ceiling. Not really sure what Trask's ceiling is right now. When you look at Trask, I don't think he's really physically a first-round talent. There's a chance someone could take Trask in the first round once a run on quarterback starts, but as of right now, I'm not so sure.
Wow. I think there was a name missing there that I haven't heard from others.
I
But
know.
let's get right into it, Ned. Who's your
I
top
have
five?
rationale, Jerry. I have rationale for him not being.
It's all good. Ned, what you got?
Yeah, of course. So, look, I think Trevor and Justin are still very much the 1-2. They've been 1-2 for the longest time. I think Justin kind of soured a few people for a run of a couple of games, but he is undoubtedly a top 2 talent, athletically, technique-wise, talent. Everything you want, those two guys are at the top. I think Lawrence has separated himself as that number 1 guy, as opposed to at the start of the year. I think it was a bit closer. For me, number 3, Zach Wilson as well. Everything Walter said. I think that despite the talent that he went up against this year, the fact that he dominated as much as he did is an establishment of just how good he can be. Put him up against NFL talent, you're definitely going to see some regression initially, but I'd like to believe that with the athleticism that he does have, and I disagree with Walter, I think he actually has a pretty phenomenal arm. Some of the deep throws that he was able to make this year, I think that that's going to transition very well to a pro-style offense. His preparation as well, the approach that he takes to the game and the way that he models himself, I think that he's going to be very successful in the NFL as well. Number 4 for me is actually Trey Lance. I know that is the guy we were looking for on the World's board. Trey Lance, he is for more or less a 1-year starter, give or take a couple of extra games on either side of that. Always a bit of a concern with a guy who is playing in the FCS and doesn't have a lot of tape. But Trey Lance offers all the athleticism that you want to see in a guy coming to the next level. I think that his decision-making is quite stellar. His throws are still not as accurate as you'd probably want to see, but he's got the ability to develop. And I think that his ceiling is probably up there with the top 2 guys in terms of that. He's a lot more developed than some of the guys that we've seen come out with his size and his athleticism. So I like to believe that he is probably going to fall somewhere in the mid to late first round. And if he falls into a system with a good head coach who can really take advantage of his talents, I think that he is going to be an absolute steal. Number 5 rounding out for me is going to be Kyle Trask. I think that he probably just edges out Mac Jones in terms of his ability to make some of those throws. Mostly because Mac, as Walt pointed to, he is in that system with guys like Najee Harris, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle. His breaking out year this year is great, but towards the end of last year when he took over for Tua, wasn't phenomenal. So I like to believe Mac is probably going to be a second-round guy. He's going to be a guy I'd love to sit behind a starter for a year, give him some time to really develop and see what he has.
Man, I love both lists. I think that these have been consensus names that we've been hearing over and over again. And I love the fact that we didn't see the exact same list, and that's a good thing, right? Because that means that what we all evaluate. It's not we don't always agree in all our evaluations. Trust me, you guys missed on a lot of these draft meetings that we had. But anyways, getting back on subject. Well, so what are you hearing from the top 5 that you just mentioned? What are you hearing out there as far as who's going to go in the first round? And let us know who do you from that list who's actually a first rounder.
Well, from right now, pretty much all of those guys except for Trask. The Kyle Trask hype train has pretty much died down. Pretty much hearing early first, maybe bottom of the first if maybe someone like Pittsburgh decides to take a flyer on them. But of course, you got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Even though Trey isn't in my top 5 right now, Trey Lance certainly has the physical tools for someone to take a chance on him, maybe late 20s, early 20s, pretty much. And Mac Jones. Personally, I don't think Mac Jones is a first-round talent, but he's got a lot of heat around him right now. He's got a pretty big fan base right now, and there's a lot to like about Mac. So, not a first-rounder to me. For a quarterback to be a first-rounder to me, he has to be a difference maker, either a serious physical talent, or his intangibles and instincts have to be off the charts the way Joe Burrow's was last year. And when I look at a guy like Trask, you don't really see the physical traits, and you don't really see those elite instincts. And a lot of people are making the Mac Jones comparison right now to Joe Burrow, and I raise the same exact concerns. When you looked at Joe Burrow play last season, you saw the instincts in the pocket. You saw the intangibles. You saw the ability to improvise consistently on his own. And you saw a lot of dog also in him. So I'm not sure about Mac Jones as far as the first-round pick, but there's a very good chance 4 to 5 of those guys could all go in the top 20.
Insane, right? I think that's insane. 5 QBs, maybe possibly even 6, like you said. So,
well, I think a big problem, Jerry, is everyone says after every draft, don't reach. And every draft year comes around, somebody's reaching. Somebody's always reaching, because once Fields and Lawrence go, I think that's when the trades pretty much are going to start.
So I think what you should do, I guess, if you're a general manager in the league, right? Or like, let's just say if you're a general manager in the league and you want that quarterback, tell them draft, right? So you tell them opposite, then what, right? Not reach, right? Reach. See if they won't, right?
Reach.
Yeah. See if that player will fall to your team, right? At your spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Ned, with your question is gonna be a little bit different, and that was Clayton Hofford. He's our in-house Patrick Mahomes. Oh, I mean, well, he's
Really?
I forget he's a Broncos fan, but he's actually our in-house quarterback. He actually was a quarterback. He played quarterback, and he actually played college ball too. So if you ever want to know fundamentals, make sure you check out Clayton's work. I know that he does weekly shows with Coach Justin, so you guys check it out. The way he explains how a quarterback should look, it's insane. It's like, I don't know, it's hearing something from, I don't know, some kind of serpent of some sort. But anyways, Ned, Ned, your question is going to be a little bit different. So with the top 5 that you mentioned, you have player comps. So we can kind of see if we can kind of see the exact same thing what you've seen in your evaluations.
Yeah, definitely. And the disclaimer, I guess, with player comps is they're never, an exact comparison. These guys were talking about, ceilings where they could potentially end up. But to kick that off, Trevor Lawrence, for me, he reminds me a lot of Andrew Luck. Not necessarily in all the physical traits. Andrew is a little bit, thicker built, but in terms of their accuracy, their ability to make the NFL style throws, their ability to work in a pro style offense out of the shotgun, you name it. He reminds me a lot of the hype that we got out of Andrew Luck coming out of Stanford back in 2012. So for me, Trevor Lawrence is kind of in that. He's a little bit tall, a little bit more lean, a lot less beard than Andrew Luck had, that caveman look. But that same kind of expectation, I think, is going to come for Trevor Lawrence, is to be that generational prospect at quarterback and, to start straight away and to probably go on to that level of play immediately, I think is going to follow him around. For Justin Fields, I see, honestly, a little bit of Cam Newton, a little bit of Dak Prescott. He's got the quick wheels, the ability to run and take off, but much like kind of Cam developed into in his MVP season, was his ability to make those reads downfield. And I think that is an area that Justin Fields could really end up, is being able to capitalize on being not simply just a running quarterback, a guy who can eat up that dual threat label, but a guy who can really develop as a passer and make the throws that he needs to in his team. So that's where it kind of brings in the Dak Prescott. Up until his injury this year, he was throwing for 450, 500 yards a game. And he still had the ability and the athleticism to be able to escape the pocket and make plays happen. So that's kind of where I expect Justin Fields to end up. But as Walt said, how many hits is he going to take before he develops into just a drop back passer? For me, then moving on to Zach Wilson, I like to see him as a better version of Kyle Allen. They have a lot of similar tendencies in terms of how their technique and the way they go through it, but I like to think that he's probably going to have a higher ceiling than what Kyle Allen had. He's a bit more athletic than he is, but a lot of similar tendencies to what Kyle Allen had coming out. Trey Lance for me is I heard a comparison a little while back of Kaepernick coming out, but I think that he actually is a little bit more like Ryan Tannehill. He's a very athletic runner, but he's a lot more developed than Cap was coming out of Nevada. He has that ability to run, but he also has the ability to drop back and make the right reads, make the throws. Doesn't pitch 100-mile-an-hour fastball straight over the center like Kaepernick would on a shorter intermediate slant. So I like the ability for Trey Lance to make that decision and to put touch on his throws as well. So I see a little bit more of the Ryan Tannehill that we've seen with Tennessee coming out with him. For Kyle Trask, he reminds me a bit of Sam Darnold and kind of a bit of Big Ben as well. A guy who's not particularly athletic. He's not a guy who's going to run, but he's got a solid arm, the ability to make touch throws down the field. He can make short throws. He has generally good decision-making, but has some brain farts where he'll throw a 3-interception game and you question what you were looking at this whole time. But he has incredible velocity off of his throws, which is, again, kind of something that we liked about Sam Darnold coming out.
Well, hey, man, I love that. I love that. I know that we all kind of, some people hate to hear player comps and some people love them. I just thought we'd just have a little fun with that. So that was my question. Actually, I actually have a player comp for Justin Fields, and I think I've said it before, but I'm gonna go out on the limb and say it. When I see him, I see a Deshaun Watson type player, and I believe you had mentioned Trey Lance. I think that he actually reminds me of a Dak Prescott as far as just because with him, Trey Lance looks like sometimes he's not gonna make those throws, right? But he's not gonna take those chances. So I just think it's more of a football IQ on both of them.
Well,
More
I want
more
to
than
comment on
Trey.
that right quick. Why do you think that is? Because when you go back and you look at like the North Dakota State film,
Yeah.
he was responsible for a lot of touchdowns. Don't get me wrong,
No, yeah.
but he left a lot of touchdowns on the field,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of slants, a lot of guys that were open. So I'm not sure if it's him being gun shy or if it's the offense kind of reining him in. And when he gets to the next level, will he explode? Because the physical tools are definitely there. I've seen him throw the football from his 40 into the end zone for a touchdown. So the arm strength is there, the talent is there, the wheels is there, the brain power is there. Just how much of it was, North Dakota State and how much of it is really him.
Well, I mean, another thing about North Dakota State is they run an actual pro style offense too. So it's just one of those things that you know maybe it was the head coach protecting him. You know what I mean? But man, in 2019, those numbers were staggering. They were blistering. I mean, I think he didn't have no interceptions. Am I correct?
Yeah, back in 2019, Jory had just his one only career interception was in the exhibition game this season.
So yeah, you're absolutely right on that. So he didn't turn the ball over either, though. So yeah, I mean, like I said, that's why it kind of like when I give these player comps, I'm not saying like the way their physical attributes. I'm talking about their actual player traits, right? The
Mhm.
actual. I'm talking about more of a their competitive nature, player traits like either they're conservative or they're gunslingers. So that's kind of like what I was referring to, not the actual person to person. But anyways, getting back on track. Let me ask. I'll ask. Let's start off with Walter, and then we'll move on to Ned. From these players that we mentioned, I mean, where do you think that would be a good fit for some of these players? Walt.
Well, guys may think I'm a little biased, but I do think Justin Fields,
I'm here.
considering
I'm listening.
considering what I believe Dan Campbell
Oh,
and Anthony Lynn, the type of offensive philosophy they plan on bringing to Detroit, I think Fields is going to probably be their type of quarterback.
who's
Lynn
they?
likes to run the ball a lot. He likes to run the ball a lot with his running backs, but I think everybody's pretty much is moving over towards the mobile quarterback.
Who's
And
they? Who's they? Real quick.
Hit us
the
up, Mark.
NFL.
No, no, no,
I'm
no.
talking about the entire NFL, Jerry.
No, 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 no.
The entire yeah.
What team are you talking about? I heard you mention the head coach, but I want to hear the team name.
Oh, I said the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, okay. So Justin
Yes,
Fields,
yes.
Justin Fields is the Detroit Lions. All right, okay, okay. Hey, I like this, man. I actually think that I'm from my actual, from my high school, we were Lions, so I've always had a deep, love for the Detroit, or admiration or respect for the Detroit Lions. And if Justin Fields lands to the Detroit Lions, you best believe I'm gonna be watching some Detroit Lions games this year. But anyways, let's get back on subject. Well, great explanation. I love that. And I can actually see that being a good match, because Justin Fields is just gritty. I mean, he's always outworked everybody. I love his attitude, his approach, and like I think you said it best. I think Dan Campbell and Justin Fields and what they're trying to do on offense would be a match made in heaven. I think the way the lines are, the way the stars have aligned, it'd be nice to see Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields in a Super Bowl 10 years down the line. Did you have any other players from your top five that
Um,
would be a
Well,
good
it
a good
depends.
fit?
I think Zach Wilson. I think for Wilson, it's going to all come down to where he goes. But I do believe arm wise, there's a lot of different systems he probably can play in. We don't know what Arthur Smith is going to bring to Atlanta, but if you look at what he would have there in Atlanta with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage coming on as a rookie this past season, I think that's definitely an offensive set of skill players that Zach Wilson could definitely take advantage of. Carolina is another place. I think if you look at a lot of the play calling that Matt Rule had last season, a lot of it consists of getting the ball out quickly to not David Moore, DJ Moore,
Yeah,
DJ Moore, and the rest of those guys. I think they had a pretty underrated wide receiver group. I think he could also fit there as well.
man, I think that I would love that pick right there, and I would love that team. I think that would be a perfect match. Walter, I mean
Yeah,
Ned. I'm sorry about that. Good job, Walter. Ned, um, do you agree? Disagree? I mean, do you have any other players that you think would be good matches for teams from your top five?
Yeah, I mean, talking to the Panthers, I think Trey Lance or Zach Wilson would be a great fit there with Matt Rule's offense. Two guys who can come in, they can perform all the tasks that they're going to be needed, that they're going to be asked to. Depends. I think their wide receiver room might look a little bit different next year, but I have no doubt that they're going to run into that system where they don't turn the ball over. They compete with their feet. They do just enough in the pass game to keep that offense rolling. And let C-Mac do his job, You're going to get a healthy Christian McDonald back next year. It's going to be huge for whoever does slot into that role next year. And you got a little bit of breathing room. If you want to start Teddy B for 4 games, 16 games, doesn't really matter. He can take the job until that guy's ready. So I think that's a good situation for both of those guys. Guys like Mac Jones, who I expect to go in the second, I could absolutely see going to somewhere like the Bears if they decide to give Trubisky another year. Slot a guy in who might need a little bit more time but can come in and take the starting role. Even somewhere like the 49ers, if they don't pull the trigger on a quarterback in free agency. I could absolutely see them going with something like Mac Jones or a Kyle Trask as well.
I like that. Out of those names that you had mentioned earlier, I think that Trey Lance to Washington would just be. Oh man, I just think that would be a perfect situation. Learning behind Alex Smith, and I mean being able to compete in the NFC East. I just think that would be a match made in heaven. But anyways, let's get into the sleeper part. I mean, we're already kind of going round circle. So let's go ahead and go into maybe some sleepers. Do you guys, who is there any potential? Is there any future Dak Prescotts that you guys can mention off the top of your head? Maybe a sleeper pick, maybe somebody that would be a backup that can win a team some games when they're quarterbacks down, or maybe even take over as the starting quarterback?
I got one.
Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
And I fooled you, Jerry. It's not who you think it is.
Oh, you can't do that to me.
No, it's definitely Ian Book. Ian Book showed me a lot this year, man. A lot. I'm not sure if Book can necessarily be a starter Sunday in, Sunday out, but he's shown to be a pretty smart kid. He gets the ball out of his hands quick, and he's a very quick decision maker. He's not really pushing the ball downfield that much, but everything about Ian Book comes across as career backup, and that's not in a bad way. I'm not trying to trash Ian Book, but I think Ian Book is a guy who, if you get him, you can probably get Book around maybe the 4th round, 5th, depending on how desperate the team may be to land whoever the 6th or 7th quarterback is off the board. But I think he's a guy who you can get into your locker room. He'll learn the playbook. He'll work hard to get better. He's tough. He's gritty, and he showed me a lot this season. And I know for sure he showed both of you guys a lot.
Well, I remember I think that he's a 5th year, right? A redshirt senior, a 5th year senior, and I think that he's 5'11". And I think when I mentioned them earlier in the year, I think that everybody said, "Are you serious?" But anyways, uh, good name. That's a name that we haven't heard, but yeah, I believe you'll be playing in the Senior Bowl, right? This week.
Yep.
Is it? Is Yeah, this Saturday. I'm sorry. Moving on to you, Ned. Who do you got? Is there any Dak Prescotts out there?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. He's a guy with a big arm, a lot of athleticism, but I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. I'm going to go to Felipe Franks out of Arkansas. Franks is a guy who, to me, he smells a lot like a 6th or 7th round guy with a lot of upside. He's a guy who may even slip into free agency, but one of the underrated things about him, and we talked a little bit about this, Jerry, was his ability to keep them in games. You know, Arkansas was a team that no one expected pretty much anything from, yet they beat some guys that they had no business beating. They were staying in games that had no business being in. He's a great communicator. He's got good leadership, shows good pocket presence, good poise in that pocket as well. He's got good athleticism, shows a lot with his lateral movement, his ability to move outside the pocket and make throws. He's the kind of guy that he's going to take a few years to mature. You know, he's got to get in that right system. He's got to really hammer down some of his decision making. You know, even his anticipation on some of these throws, particularly the corner and the out routes. But he's a guy that has a lot of upside for me. You know, he is going to be able to start a guy like Nick Mullins, we've mentioned, you know, coming in, replacing Jimmy Garoppolo a couple of years, and a guy who can win you some games and look pretty flashy doing it. So, again, he is a guy that if you manage to pick him up 6th, 7th round, or even as a priority free agent, he's going to offer a lot of value to a team.
Oh, well, I will say this: when I saw some tape on him, a couple things stand up. I like his anticipation, and I saw a lot of grit in his game. But I just wanted to just kind of throw that in there. I guess my 2 cents.
Consistency, as you'd expect with a guy who's not a first rounder, is an issue. But when he shows a flash, it looks great. And you know, there are some teams that I imagine that are going to be looking for a backup who can come in and potentially stash on the practice squad. And that's teams like Tampa Bay, you know, looking for an eventual successor for Tom Brady. LA Rams, you know, Goff is now under fire, and rightfully so. Getting a guy who can come in and start working in that McVay system, I think that he's a guy who could do that. And even Detroit Lions, you know, I expect that they're going to take a quarterback early, but hedge your bets later on and take a guy with some good upside.
Man, what a year, right? To be, you know, if you need a quarterback, definitely it just, you know, what your cup of tea, right? You find them and you can groom them, and who knows, right? You can probably potentially have your future first rounder. So, well, that's it for us today. Make sure you tune in on Thursday. We're going to be covering the top running backs. We want to thank you all for joining us, and as always, tune in and stay connected.